Hello, crafty friends, and welcome to my channel and welcome to Late Night Crafting with me. Well, it's not so very late today, it's just 10:45 here, and we are doing better than last week, which was almost after midnight. Today, we are creating a very clean and simple thank you card and using some new products by Simon and some old products. So, now this one I wanted to use this very big sentiment here, which says, "So very grateful for your love and support." Now, this is by Simon. It's the Bereavement Thank Yous, and I absolutely love the sentiments on these. I'll just read a few of these out. "Thank you for your kindness during this difficult time. It is appreciated more than you know. Thank you for your love and support. It means the world. Thank you for all your thoughts and prayers during this challenging time." So, I mean, I love this set because now this one I would use on my card front today, but these sentiments would definitely go on the inside of my card. Now this is the stencil that I'll be using for my background. I think I have some marks on my lens. Let me just clean it real quick. Sorry for that disturbance there. Yeah, that's a lot cleaner. I thought I cleaned it, but yeah. So yeah, I'll be using this stencil. This is the Big Basketweave Stencil. It has a beautiful brick wall like stencil. I absolutely love how versatile this is. You could definitely use it as the name suggests, big basket weave, or like create a beautiful subtle background. Now, for example, I created this card. This was one of the cards that I created last week. I have a video tutorial for this one on YouTube. And here you see in the background, I've added very subtle details using this very same stencil. So I absolutely love the stencil. It's really versatile. You could definitely go with bold colors, bold inks for that dark background, or like I did here, you could go very subtle without background. Now, this one is a shaker card. This one, uh, again, is one of Simon's new background stamps, which is absolutely stunning. And I paired it with these little daisies and the sentiment strip. Now, for our card today, I was debating to use either this dragonfly or these daisies. So we'll see how the card comes together and we'll figure out if in the end we use the dragonfly or the daisies. But the main element of this card today will be the sentiment. Now, usually when I make cards, I start with my background, then the focal point, and then the sentiment. Today we are going in reverse order. We'll start with our sentiment, then have a background, beautiful background ready, and the finishing touch will be our focal point, which we'll decide at the very end. So let's get started. We'll begin by stamping the sentiment on a white cardstock panel. Now I have a white cardstock panel. This is an A2 size panel. This is 4 1/4 by 5.5. Usually I have panels that are 4 by 5 1/4 inches, but this one I'll keep as is an A2 panel and then later on decide if we need to cut it to 4 by 5 1/4 or even smaller depending on what focal point we are using and how the sentiment fits on this panel. So I will bring in my stamp wheel and I will place it right here. So my idea would be having the sentiment towards one side and then the background. I will not be covering the entire panel with that brick background, but maybe adding a little bit texture. But the main thing would be our sentiment and the focal point. So I want the sentiment and the focal point to be diagonally opposite to each other. So with that, we can just figure out the placement of everything. I'll bring the sentiment. You could definitely stamp the sentiment either right in the center here or anywhere on the card front, or even if you wanted to go on a portrait style card, you could do that. But I decided to stamp it a little towards the left hand side of my panel and not completely centering it. Now, I will bring in my grid transparency sheet. This will help me align the sentiment because yes, we will have the dragonfly or the daisies as the main focal point, but I just want my sentiment to be properly aligned because this is the starting point of our card, and just making sure everything stays in place from the very beginning. So I absolutely love having this grid transparency sheet. It's not just perfect for sentiments, aligning sentiments like these, but if I wanted, I could like place certain things on this grid mat just to get an idea of where the placements of all these things need to be. So I like it in this quadrant, so that's why I'll be stamping it here. And then when we have our focal point, that'll go on the right hand corner, which will be a diagonal um image to that of our sentiment. Now to stamp our sentiment, we will be using black pigment ink, and then we'll be heat embossing it using clear embossing powder. So I will first go ahead and pick it up and make sure it's properly aligned. Let's see, that looks pretty straight. Now, since this is a new stamp, I've never used it before, so I generally just like to rub my fingers against it just to remove any of that uh, new residue or stickiness from the stamp. And then, since we are heat embossing, I will run my anti-static powder over the panel so that the embossing powder sticks only to the stamped image and nowhere else on the panel. Now, you've always seen me using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Here's another ink. This is the Altenews Obsidian Pigment ink. This is again a pigment ink, perfect for your heat embossing. If you're not heat embossing your images, make sure both these, whichever ink you use, it's completely dry before you add in any kind of ink blending or even touching that stamped image, because this stays wet for longer time and you need to make sure it's completely dry. When you add your embossing powder, it kind of melts and dries there, so it wouldn't smudge. So this is also why I like to use heat embossing with pigment inks, especially when I'm stenciling or even coloring, because the ink won't smudge. Now, if you don't like using pigment inks, you could definitely use the dye inks. These dry faster and are also alcohol marker friendly, so they won't smudge. But again, I would just give it maybe a couple of minutes to dry before I start in my coloring. Okay, so let's stamp our image, sentiment. I will stamp this twice just to get that crisp look. Even though I'm heat embossing it, I still want a nice crisp image, so I will stamp it twice. Now we can lift the panel and pour in some of the clear embossing powder. This one is by um, this is a very fine embossing powder, so it'll give that beautiful crisp image. I'll just funnel this back into the jar before I bring my heat gun towards my paper. I'll make sure my heat tool is nice and hot before I bring it to my paper. I'll just clean any embossing powder that has fallen on my surface, because this heat gun, if it touches that, it might melt and I don't want to ruin my glass surface. Now, this is one technique to use if you don't want your paper to warp a lot. Just place it under your pot tool or any, maybe a cardboard box. The paper won't warp as much. And every time I heat emboss, I like to bring the heat tool from the back first and then go in the front of the panel. That kind of melts the embossing powder, which is directly sticking to our stamped image, or in this case, our stamped sentiment. And that's it. So I will definitely give this a few seconds to cool down before I add in my stenciling. And that will be the second thing that we do after. So usually this would be our very last step once I have everything assembled. But I would say this is the main focal point of my card. I absolutely love the sentiment, and the font on this sentiment is very clean and simple, which is a lot my style. So that's the reason I chose to go with this sentiment. I'll just shake it a bit so that it's completely dry, and then we can bring in our stencil. Now this panel did warp a little, so you see it's not completely flat on my mat. That's all right, because you once we are done with the card and when we stick it on our panel, it'll go flat. If you think your panel has warped a lot, you could definitely keep it under a pile of books. That'll help it. Or you could also run it through your die cutting machine, just the panel, and that should also straighten it out. Now I'm keeping my stencil over this. I'm not going to cover the entire background, but add some color to random places, just like we did in this card right here. If you see, I don't have any of that background here, but then, and the intensity here is very less as compared to what it's here. So I decided to play with some teals today. I might go with Teal Tempest. This is from Aqua Island set by Altenio. This again is a dye ink, and I absolutely love using teals on my cards. It's a very beautiful color, I feel. Now with this, I am not going to be adding on the whole entire panel, just here and there around my sentiment and around the focal point image. So very lightly, I'm not even using a heavy hand to blend this. Very lightly, I will go around my sentiment and add some color. Now, wherever you feel okay, you have some big splotches of color, you can just bring in some more color on your blending brush, tap it on your work surface, and bring it there. It'll get covered up. Right now, the ink is quite wet, so you see that splotch. But once the ink settles into the paper, it'll dry out, and the lines won't be as harsh as it's right now. I'll just go there with my blending brush and add color. Again, I'm not inking up the entire panel, just adding color here and there. Keeping certain areas lighter as compared to the others. All right. Love how beautiful that looks already. You could definitely just add some few gems here and there and call this card done, but we will be adding a beautiful focal point to this card. Okay. Now, I was really torn between the dragonfly and the daisies, so I did go ahead and cut both of those out with some beautiful colors, and we can keep both of them on our panel and see which one looks best. So here I have my daisies. So I cut them using white cardstock, added some gray. It's actually the same daisies that I used for this particular card. So you can check out the video where I show you how exactly I've colored these pieces. And this is one. Here. I can definitely add the second daisy somewhere here and bring in that beautiful branch. This would be option number one. Or option number two would be bringing in a beautiful dragonfly, which I cut using silver cardstock. Now, both these papers are by Your Paper Insider, and something really beautiful. Either this, or I have another option, which is a dragonfly with black petals. Uh, Sorry, not petals, wings. I've been making floral cards since morning, and yeah. So this is option number two. So we have these options or the flowers. I think I will go for the dragonfly. I have used the florals a lot today and I've been using it, and the dragonfly is something that I have not used in quite some time. So it would either be one dragonfly or two. Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Should I use both the dragonflies or just one? If it's just one, it would go right here. And we can definitely add some splatters to this to make it a little more heavier, and we will be cutting down the panel. Or we could keep this one as well. So you get an interest, and I think we'll go just with this one dragonfly. Thank you for helping me out with that. All right. So let's just go and assemble this dragonfly real quick. Now, it's very easy, but you can take a look at the packaging. Now, this die was one piece die. It cut out both the wings as well as the body of the dragonfly. That's why I have two separate pieces. So I used the silver cardstock to cut out the entire piece, and then I used a black cardstock. That's why I have two separate pieces. I have the die cut somewhere here just to show you guys how it cut out. I don't think I can find it. I kept it safely so that I can show you guys, but I definitely kept it too safe. All right. So assembling this is pretty easy. All I'm going to do is add the tiniest bit of glue at the center of the lower wing and just adhere this on top of it. If you wanted, you could definitely add glue to the edges, but you can keep it as is. It's maybe just the tiniest bit here. Make sure you don't use a lot of glue because you don't want all that glue to ooze out from this delicate die cut piece. Right? You could also cut the wings using some shimmering vellum or any beautiful gold as well. I think teal wings would also look. And then again, I added a drop of glue to the center. And just like that, our dragonfly is ready. Now you could definitely pop him up with some foam tape, but I decided to keep this card super simple and well, it's very much unlike me, but I'm not going to add any dimension to this card. I'll be directly uh, adhering this card on my card base as well. So I will just go ahead and trim the panel to 4 by 5 and quarter, and then we can add our butterfly, dragonfly. All right, there we have it. And now we can go ahead and adhere this little guy over here. Now, what I want to do is just to make him pop and give him a little bit of grounding. I know this is where I am going to place him. I'll just make a pencil line, and whatever ink is left on my ink blending brush, I will just add that extra ink around here just to pop him up a little. If you wanted, you could also go with maybe one shade lighter or even the same ink. This is one technique I absolutely love doing. What you do is you grab your ink, take some on your blending brush, tap it on the surface, take that ink and very lightly just add color to wherever you want. So this is a very light blend as compared to this one right here. Again, I'm going to pick up ink from that same exact spot and add color. If I wanted more ink, I would just tap it on the ink pad, then tap on my glass surface and bring that ink right to the center. I will just blend it out, and I'm not applying a lot of pressure, slightest bit of pressure here, and I think we are good with that. If you wanted, you could definitely add more color. Just spread it out where the wings are going. So I know my wings will go in this direction, so I will spread out the color. Yeah. Don't forget to clean your glass surface or whatever surface you're using. You don't want any of that ink on that beautiful white. Now I will go ahead and adhere my little dragonfly. Again, like I mentioned, I'm not using any foam tape. You could definitely pop him up with tiny pieces of foam tape on the wings. but I will today adhere him directly on our. Not a lot of glue. I don't want any of that glue to ooze out from the wings. Because if you look closely, the wing has etchings on them, and these are like tiny little openings, so you don't want all that glue to ooze out. And that's it. Now for the splatters, here is another technique that I'll show you. Not everyone likes watercolor splatters, or if you find you don't get a lot of control with that, the easiest way to add splatters is four splatters with your gel pen or any kind of markers you could use. So I'm using my black gel pen and adding random dots here and there wherever I feel I need some splattering. This is the easiest way, the non-messy way. So what I'm doing is, since this is the flow, we have our sentiment and the butterfly, the dragonfly going in this direction. So our splattering will also be in this direction. So just a few dots here and there. You don't have to be perfect or precise with these dots. You are just mimicking the natural splattering that you put using watercolors. So some dots may be big, some may be small. You don't have to have like an exact circle, or it could be any shape. Some may be big. So if you think there's a big splatter, just draw a big circle and color it in. Nobody really has to know that this is not actual watercolor splatters and this is something. Oh, so this way you can actually control the amount of splattering on your card front. This is a no mess technique, which is my absolute favorite. And this is quick. There's nothing here that has to dry, or it's not at all messy. And you have the entire control of how many dots or how many splatters you want and where you want them to be. You can do as little or as many as you want. I can go ahead and adhere this onto an A2 size card base. That is a very clean and simple card. Uh, if you wanted, you could also add some gems to this, but I think I will leave it as is. I don't want to add any extra color to this, and well, I absolutely love how this turned out. It was very simple to create, and you could also use your daisies instead of the dragonfly if you're not into flying creatures like I am. Well, this is a paper dragonfly, so I'm okay with this. But well, if this was a real thing, I would be running away right now. So yeah, instead of that, you could also use your daisies or any flowers or any kind of focal point image that you have. I think it would pair perfectly with the sentiment. Now, Easter just went by, so you could, if you have bunnies or rabbits in your stash, I think that would also pair perfectly with this sentiment. So yeah, that was the card for today. A very clean and simple card. Now, before I go, I wanted to share a few things with you guys. In my last live, I created a card which was the leftovers from this particular card. This was actually part of my Altenews workshop. I host workshops. almost every alternate Saturdays. And I teach you techniques and some things fun that I learn, and um, I can teach you guys that. And this was a bridge card. So I do have a couple of workshops coming up next week where we will be creating this particular card. We have inking, we'll be inking up our embossing folders. We have some fun techniques to die cut and ink blend this beautiful uh, image, and then some fun florals. So this one is next Saturday, that is April 18th. This is actually not on YouTube. It will be a Zoom workshop. So I will have links to the Zoom workshop, and also links to uh, basically how I create this card. So if you guys are interested, please send me a message or DM me on my Instagram, or even leave a comment below the video and reach out to me or email me. And the Saturday after that, that is May 9th, we will have this card where, well, this looks like a very clean and simple card, but when you open it, it's actually a trifold card. So basically, you are getting into a cozy living room scene, this beautiful stenciling, how to use your frame dies and create a beautiful living room scene. So these are the two cards that I have classes for, and I would love to see you guys there. And I will leave all the information down in the description box along with links and where you need to contact me for all of these. I would definitely love to have you guys there. So, just taking a look at the card that we created again here. These are the cards we have, and I hope to see you guys again on our next live, which will be next Saturday. Hopefully, not a very late night crafting, but a little sooner. I have links to this one and this, everything in the description below. All these links, if it is a product link, all of them are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using any of those links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. So thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Bye.